Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. How are you all doing? My name is Amanda Ellis, and a very warm welcome to my channel. Today is the 9th of May 2025. This is going to be an intuitive deep dive look into the new Pope. Pope Leo announced yesterday on the 8th of May 2025, which also happened to coincide with the 80th anniversary of Victory in Europe Day, which was widely celebrated across much of Europe. So there was a lot of positivity, a lot of optimism, a lot of celebration yesterday, linked into the 80th anniversary. So I called it a portal of peace because ultimately it was when peace descended across Europe again. So maybe there's something in that this Pope can also bring an element of peace to the Catholic Church. So in this video anyway, we're going to have a look at it. We're going to have a look at his numerology. I'm going to comment on the energy that I observed myself watching the proceedings in St. Peter's Square. I wasn't actually there. I'd have loved to have been there actually. I was just watching it on the television. Some of the light phenomena that has been picked up when the last Pope died, when this new Pope was announced. I've got some images to show you of orbs and light phenomena, as well as some spectacular, I think they're called crepuscular rays, which came out over the Vatican as he was announced yesterday also. And yes, we'll have a dig into what the future holds. I will say that this video, in case you've just stumbled upon me and you've never seen me before, I did another video a few weeks ago called Symbolism on the last Pope's passing and what's next. And a lot of the information and intuitive energy that I picked up there is obviously still valid. So this follows on from that. But in a nutshell, what I was saying was that the new Pope, recorded at the time where we didn't know who it was going to be, was going to be quite a reformer. He would appear to be more conservative than he actually is. So he would be more radical as he got his feet settled into the job of being Pope, if that makes sense. So to effectively not judge him necessarily on what his positions have been in the past, but definitely an energy of revolutionizing the Catholic Church. I was particularly picking up the energy of women and their role within the church as being one of the key things that he would have to look at, as well as historical and probably unfortunately still present abuses of children within the church. I also, what else did I say? I can't really remember off the top of my head, but anyway, go back and look at it. It was all good stuff. I also said that I felt that the new Pope would be nominated very quickly, and he was nominated quickly. It was quite a surprise last night that they had already decided upon who he was going to be. By the way, if you can hear an intermittent beeping, it is my smoke alarm, which started to go off yesterday, a few hours before the Pope was announced. And of course, a lot of the world was watching the chimney yesterday with the smoke. Was it going to be black smoke? Was it going to be white smoke? And around that time, yeah, my smoke alarm has started to play up in my house. So apologies for that. I can't get the battery out, which is why it's still beeping, but hopefully it won't annoy you too much, because the content is going to be good, so stick with it. Right, where to start then? Where to start? I think where I would like to start is actually just with pausing for a moment to create a nice and positive and hopeful energy for those of us that are gathered to hear what wants to come through in this video. So if we could just pause for a moment and put our roots down into Mother Earth, aligning also to the highest light, bringing in the energy of Jesus and all the saints I'm hearing as well. and asking them to guide this session and the information and energy that comes through with regards to Pope Leo, for us to be able to hear with openness and, more than anything, a place of non-judgment, so that we can start to understand the true nature of this man, and what has been in the past and what will be in the future. Thank you. Okay. Because certainly, I will just talk about the elephant in the room before we get going. Waking up today, of course, in the UK press, but I'm sure not just the UK, there is a lot of headlines linking into the fact that they are saying that in the past he turned a blind eye to some of the stories of abuse that came across his door, and didn't maybe take the most appropriate or fast enough action to deal with that. And some of the survivor groups are calling him out on that. What I would say to that is we need to pause and give this guy a chance. And that's not to say that I'm excusing anything that has not been done in the past or has not been listened to. But I do believe that this man has been appointed for a reason. And let's put it this way. What I'm feeling is that we learn from the lessons of the past. We learn from the mistakes that we have made. I believe they go back several decades anyway, and since then he has actually come out and publicly talked about the need for healing within the church, the need for us to be listening, obviously, to people who have been abused, and for justice effectively to be served. So what I'm being shown is a journey that this guy has been on with regards to this one particular subject, and having learnt from maybe not listening as deeply as he could have done in the past, to the position he's in now, where he has the world's ears and he's in the world's spotlight. And it's at this moment that he can actually make the greatest change, and bring about the greatest healing, rather than being more hidden away in a diocese or part of the world that, yes, affects that part of the world, but here he is in a more prominent position to be able to do something really good. Because we'll get into all the numerology and everything else in a moment, but a lot of my ability, I guess, as a, whatever you want to call me, a guide, a teacher, an intuitive, comes via clairsentience, which means that you feel. And they say that the body doesn't lie, and I believe that to be true. And I can only say that when I saw, because I'd never seen this guy before yesterday, when I saw him come out onto the balcony and I looked into his face, I saw kindness, gentleness, calmness, steadiness, and love. So you can see that in his persona, you can see that in his face, you can see that in his aura. And I say to the press that are trying to leap on him straight away for what he hasn't done in the past, as well as statements he has said with regards to particularly J.D. Vance, for example, being quite critical of immigration policy and a few other things that have been said. Can we just pause, take a breath, and allow him to find his feet in this new role? Because he is no longer a cardinal, he is a pope, in leading, I believe it's something like 1.4 billion Catholics across the world. And actually at a time where more people are turning to the church or are interested in the church, not necessarily just Catholicism. We see it across many different avenues of church or ways to find God. In a godless age, many people are turning once again to religion and also spirituality to help them find some answers. And so a man that is in such a position of power, I would just like us to pause and send some goodwill his way, that lessons of the past have been learned, that he can make radical change where it is needed across the board on a number of different subjects, and that we just give him a chance. Okay, so that's all I'm going to say on that. I want to now get to the numerology and also what I was picking up yesterday. Okay, so yeah, it was really interesting watching it live, because first thing to say is I'm not a Catholic. Okay, I'm not a Catholic, and so you might think, well, why were you watching it? But I noticed many people across social media saying that they were watching it too, or they were definitely caught up in the energy of watching the smoke. Okay, so, you know, seeing whether the new Pope had been elected yet or not, what was the chimney saying, watching the seagulls that were all over it as well. The symbolism of a seagull, of course, very much linked into freedom, amongst many other things as well. But yeah, a lot of people seem to be caught up in it. It's like, I'm interested in this, I'm not even a Catholic. What that's about is being pulled into something that is important. It's as though you don't necessarily even need to know why you're interested. It's as though your higher self is steering your compass towards a particular person or a particular situation or a particular day or a particular energy, because there is something of importance happening. Okay, so I was really interested watching it. I was not surprised at the crowd size, but again, just felt my heart felt very warm and very uplifted by the number of people that were there from all different nationalities from across the world, many different flags, all ages, all colours, you know, just really there to witness a moment that was important to them. And as I say, in what can feel a very godless age, seeing a moment where people are very captivated by something spiritual, something that means something to them, that gives meaning to their life, that is important to them, that gives moral structure to them, that gives spiritual guidance to them, all there waiting, okay? And the energy absolutely being one of joy and upbeat. It was quite interesting because, I mean, I don't speak Latin. In fact, one of the things that's interesting about Pope Leo is he apparently can speak Italian, Spanish, Latin, and English. But he is also, he's said to be, you know, the first American Pope. I think there's a bit of contention over that in terms of, is he the first American Pope, because Francis also had ties to USA, but maybe he's the first South American Pope. Okay, and I was sort of waiting to hear the slight American twang or, you know, accent, and of course he was speaking in Latin, so there was none of that, and I couldn't understand anything he was saying. But there was like this sharp intake of breath before he came onto the balcony, those of you that were watching it live, where I think the Cardinal was basically saying who it was who had won, effectively. And there was like this sharp intake of breath, which I didn't understand, but I think it was because people were surprised that he was American. He wasn't maybe one of the names that people were expecting to hear. And I intuitively, you tell me what you were feeling in that moments before he was announced. I had a feeling it was going to be the Asian cardinal. Now, obviously I was wrong, but it was just a gut feel. But I think what I was picking up was the fact that I don't know who this is that's about to appear on the balcony, but he feels as though he breaks a genre, okay? He could have been the first Black Pope. He could have been the first Asian Pope. Actually, what he turned out to be was the first American Pope. So this is, you know, this is breaking the mold, as it were. So, yeah, that was interesting. But also just watching the energy of the crowd and just more than anything, feeling the goodness that was coming off that crowd and the joy. And I think when crowds are gathered, it's like Jesus said, when two or more are gathered in my name, that is a portal through which love can rise, through which the frequency of the planet can rise. It'd be interesting to see what the Schumann resonance is doing today, or what it was doing yesterday, because I feel as though we're definitely going to have a lift that comes from that moment, whether it's immediate or whether it's sort of being tracked and then it rises. But definitely watch the Schumann resonance. And actually, thinking about it now, I know I've often referenced my pet, Bella, that my dog, but I said a few videos back she'd been playing up a bit and behaving a bit spooked out and a bit weird. But the thing is, animals sense energy, and she, without going into the details of it, there was an incident with her the night before this Pope Leo was announced, which was very out of character for her. She had an upset stomach, basically, and all the rest of it. I won't go into the details, but the point is she was being affected by a changeover, a power changeover. In many ways, this battery that's beeping is that. The old battery hasn't quite yet been replaced, but the new one is going to be put in. Because I'm assuming with the Pope there is a ceremony, you know, like like royalty when you have the crowning moment. So even though he is now Pope, I'm sure there's going to be some sort of ceremonial thing, which probably happens as well, an anointing. So, and at that moment, that's when the real changeover happens and the real power and life force comes into the man. Okay, I wanted to read you something now, which, because, you know, you yourself can go onto Google and read about who he is and what he's done. But last night, I saw something on X written by an account called The Curious Tales. Now, so shout out to The Curious Tales on X. These are this person's words. He's written it in the style of prose, but I think it's very, very well written, and it's very to the point and shows the nature of the man. So, Robert Prevost, who has now become Pope Leo, this is who he is. He said no to Harvard, he said no to Harvard, no to a six-figure future, no to fame, no to comfort, and yes to something few dare to choose, a life of complete surrender. He joined a missionary group and moved to Peru, not to the cities, not to the tourist spots, but to the most remote villages where children die from treatable diseases. And families walk miles just for clean water. There were no roads, no running water, no Wi-Fi, just mountains, silence and poverty, but he embraced it like home. Robert didn't just live among the people, he became one of them. He learned the sacred language of the Incas, carried food on foot for days, slept on dirt floors with the villagers, prayed under the stars. He became one of them. When he wasn't building shelters, he taught maths to barefoot children under broken rooftops. When he wasn't teaching, he carried the sick on donkeys to get help. When he wasn't healing, he listened, truly listened to stories no one else cared to hear. While his friends from back home became lawyers and doctors, he became something else entirely, a shepherd, a brother, a quiet warrior of faith, and slowly his legend grew. His acts weren't broadcasted, but they echoed through the Andes. Bishops noticed, priests noticed, and eventually the Vatican noticed. They called him back to lead his entire Augustinian order, from serving a village to overseeing 2,800 brothers in over 40 countries. Still he kept his same sandals, still he walked with the poor, still he rejected luxury. Then came the call that changed everything. Rome wanted him closer. In 2020, he was appointed Archbishop and assigned to govern other bishops globally. It was rare, but Robert had never chased tradition. He wasn't just fluent in Latin or canon law. He was fluent in compassion, in humility, in listening, in presence. The Vatican didn't just see a priest, they saw a leader with a soul. On September the 30th, 2023, Pope Francis made it official. Robert was named a cardinal, just one step below the Pope. And then, in 2025, history was made. For the first time ever, an American, a former maths teacher, a missionary to the forgotten, was elevated as the 267th Pope of the Catholic Church. And he didn't forget the people who shaped him. Pope Robert still returns to the same villages, still prays in Incan language, still sits on dirt floors, still holds the hands of the elderly in silence, because leadership, he believes, is about presence, not position. The world is obsessed with power, but Robert Prevost proves titles mean nothing without service, knowledge is useless without love, and faith without sacrifice is noise. He turned down the world and changed it instead. I think that's beautiful. So shout out to the Curious Tales. I don't know who this person is, but if you're on X, go and give those tweets a like. I think they're absolutely beautiful, and they really moved me. Okay, I tell you what else moved me. I want to show this light phenomenon that's been going on. So I think many of you had noticed it, but I noticed it yesterday. You see, the thing is, often we think that we have to be clairvoyant to see light phenomena, to see auras, to see orbs, etc. But we're living in times where the veil is becoming very thin, and more people are being able to see it with their naked eye. It's really right in front of our face. When Spirit wants us to see something, it's put right in front of our face. So I was watching the live broadcast from the Vatican yesterday, and every time they went towards the balcony with the shot, you could see orbs, angelic orbs, spiritual orbs, white orbs, clearly floating by. I mean, it was as clear as day. I knew my eyes weren't deceiving me, but I was still like, gosh, I really can't believe how many there are. And then a few of you that were following this with me on Facebook and Instagram, you said the same thing. You said, Amanda, have you seen the orbs? It's like, yeah, I have. Isn't it amazing? The other thing that happened, if we roll back a few days, I believe it's 17 days since the Pope died, or his funeral, I can't quite remember. But on the day of his funeral, and I did put this picture up on Facebook and Instagram, but I'm going to show it to you now. On the day of his funeral, when his coffin, when the late Pope's coffin was being processed past, can you see the shape of the angel there on the left-hand side? Clear as day. That's actually just a photograph of my television. I think I was watching it, having breakfast. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe what I was seeing with my eyes. So I had to take the photo just to make sure it was real, and it was. I believe that if you actually watch the footage back from the funeral, it's clearly there as well for anybody to see, with eyes to see. But yeah, like an angelic light presence that was clearly there. We had the orbs yesterday also on the balcony. And then shout out to a lady called Jodie Kodesh on YouTube. This was brought to my attention by one of you on Instagram this morning who said, have you seen this post of Jodie's? She has captured what are called crepuscular rays, which were appearing over the Vatican just as Pope Leo was announced. Now, I actually did see this with my own eyes as well, but I didn't capture it. She has captured it. And I was aware of it happening, but wasn't actually sure what it was called. You can also see there that the rays have a blue tinge to them as they filter down. So thank you to Jodie Kodesh for capturing that for us to talk about. Go and have a look at her channel, see what she's all about. But yeah, just extraordinary. You know, it's because light is important for many different reasons, but it's absolutely a sign that what we're dealing with here is light. And one thing I did hear Spirit say yesterday was this guy, Pope Leo, he is here to bring, how did I actually phrase it? Christ reclaiming his church is what I've written down here. Christ reclaiming his church. I don't quite know what that means yet, other than the obvious, which is bringing back more Christ consciousness into the church. I've talked about Christ consciousness a lot here. I've created a whole oracle deck on Christ consciousness. If you know me, this is a beautiful picture of Jesus, which is take my hand, follow my lead. But this thing about Pope Leo, somehow he's linked into Christ reclaiming his church. And that can only happen if literally everything that is wrong is brought up to be cleansed, to be heard, to be acknowledged, to be hurt, to be healed, which is why I'm saying do not write this guy off just because of something that maybe he didn't do 20 years ago. This is his moment to correct it, but in a much bigger way than he ever could have done 20 years ago. But yeah, just this thing about Christ consciousness, because going back to the fact that a lot of non-Catholics were caught up in this event yesterday, including myself. I'm not about to start going back to church. I've talked about all of this before. I grew up as a Christian, if you've only just found me, okay? So I was with the church for many years. I still believe in Jesus, but I left the church, but I never left Jesus. That's my catchphrase, as it were. So for me, I'm not going back, but, I welcomed yesterday just because it was a celebration of Jesus and Christ consciousness in action. All of those people just there in a state of love and high vibration. And I feel as though Pope Leo is a good man. But I was watching one particular TV station and they had a commentator on the panel, a Catholic woman, and she started to really rub me up the wrong way. I had to turn over the station because she was talking, she was being so condescending to the other people on the panel who were asking genuine questions about whatever it was. And she was sort of saying, oh, you're not a Catholic, are you? You're not a Catholic, you don't understand this stuff, which immediately was bringing the walls down, closing the walls with regards to conversation, debate, inclusivity, you are welcome, and that was the polar opposite energy to what I was getting from Pope Leo, which was much more inclusive and welcoming. So I don't know how he's going to do it. And I tell you what, it's a bit like if you become Prime Minister or President, you arrive with a huge list of things that need to be done, things that are wrong, things that need to be healed. This guy has got a huge list, but top of the list at the moment absolutely is the whole thing with regards to child abuse, cover-ups within the church, dealing with that. I still think women and the role of women is going to be a huge one as well for him. But take your pick. It's going to be quite a ride with him, but I do think he's a good man. I also think this thing about him being South American, somehow he is a voice, he is a bridge between South America and North America. A bridge with those continents, a bridge with regards to different ideologies. I noted somebody on Facebook yesterday straight away were into slamming him, and it seemed to be like he's just a socialist, he's this, he's that. And I think I said to you, so what if he is a socialist? Not everybody can be a capitalist. Unity is about understanding that you have to be okay with people holding different positions. And again, anything that he said in the past politically, he was allowed to say. He has a voice. You might not like what he has to say, but he's allowed to say it. Again, I come back to this position of let's judge him, although we shouldn't be judge and jury because that's for God to decide, but let's review would be a better word, how he behaves when he's in the job, when he's settled, when he has got his bearings, because it's like politics, it's like anything. It's like royalty as well. It's like who you are as a prince, who you are as a candidate is different from who you become when you become a leader of whatever it is you are being asked to lead. And don't forget the power of the Holy Spirit that also rains down in that moment when you are crowned as leader too. Okay, let's get to some numerology now. So we've done the orbs. We've done that. Right. Let's see, who is he then? Okay, so Pope Leo, interesting name choice. I believe they always choose a name, don't they, that isn't actually their name. So he's never going to be Pope Robert. So Pope Leo the 14th. Leo, of course, takes me straight to the lion. It takes me to courage. If you've watched previous videos that I've done, I've been talking about forgiveness is the block that we have as a world that is stopping our awakening. I think it first came in when I was channeling Judas, and that's how it came through. You know, what is the block to us awakening and ascending as a planet, which includes you and me, not just the church. Yeah, what is the block? The block is forgiveness, that we can't forgive. And I've done some work recently, literally only a couple of days ago, where I was talking about what we need with regards to forgiveness and facing forgiveness is courage. Where does courage come in? It comes in from the lion. So I feel as though he's going to model courage, but not in a very brash, arrogant, egotistical, loud way. Okay, this is going to be quite a soft Leo type energy. It's courage with grace. It's strength with grace. It's power with softness. I've watched a couple of interviews of people who've actually met him in the past and also since he's become Pope. And they were saying he just has this quiet strength about him. He has a dignity about him. He's very calm, quite grounded, quite considered, quite unassuming. And I think that's quite good, actually, to be quite unassuming. It's a bit like the... It's a bit like the dark horse. It's like you don't quite it's almost like don't count him out type energy. Just because he might not be speaking out on something doesn't mean that energetically there aren't very powerful stirrings happening where he's bringing something up. Not everything has to be shouted from the rooftops, okay? Although he has the ability to do that, of course, in front of a crowd. I just feel there's a quiet strength there. So, yeah, it led me to think about this card from the Christ Consciousness deck, which is our lion. It says lion heart, stand firm. So he's got that lion energy because of the Leo part of it all. He's 69, so fairly young to become Pope, certainly in relation to the previous two. He was born the 14th of September 1955, which I believe makes him Virgo. The 14 is interesting also. This number 14 seems to follow him because he was, I've lost my notes here. Oh, that's right, yeah. They announced the fact that they had elected a new pope, you know, and the smoke goes to white at 8 minutes past 6 local time in Rome. 8 and 6 add to 14. 14 is the date that he was born. 14 as a number energy, colour number energy, is linked into the Aquarian Age. He is a pope that's going to take us into the Aquarian Age, and a crystal that I pick up with him, it's quite an unusual crystal because usually with popes or royalty or that type of thing, you would pick up purple. But I'm picking up turquoise energy around him. I'm also picking up turquoise in his aura. Of course, there was blue coming down in those rays from the Vatican as well. But the crystal I'm picking up is aqua aura. Now, it's interesting that one of the aqua aura crystals that I have to show you is actually, it's an alien star being head. And I don't know whether this is a nod to the fact that one of the things on his long list to do and talk about and disclose maybe, because this guy's probably going to be in the job for quite a long time. He's only 69. could be overseeing the disclosure of what the Vatican knows about UFOs, because supposedly they are sitting on a lot of undisclosed information, because there's always been this thought that if people truly understood and knew that there was life maybe on other planets, or there's life that's come to visit us, which I believe is true, then that throws into question maybe some of the stories within the Bible. And for me, I don't feel it would shatter my faith. I think it would just be an additional beautiful part of all that it is to be part of this glorious creation, you know. But anyway, let's not get into that. But I just do think there's something here also with regards to him. Not now, not next week, but at some point further down the line. I don't know. He just has a role in, you know, disclosure. I mean, it could just be that something is disclosed and then he has to deal with the fallout, you know, that he is the one who has to speak to the 1.4 billion Catholics and explain it to them, or give them a perspective on it. I don't know. But I definitely pick up Aqua Aura as a crystal that is important for him. And one of the properties with Aqua Aura is it helps us to step into our power and who we are actually born to be, as well as providing very good psychic protection. So I do believe this guy's pretty protected, actually, because it feels as though he sort of glided to this position, you know, from sort of nowhere. He's obviously put the groundwork in, as we heard via that lovely bit of prose that I read to you earlier. But, you know, elected a cardinal in 2023, was it? You know, and then becoming Pope, that's quite a quick rise up the ranks. So it feels as though I'm being shown him on like a, you know, one of those walking elevators in an airport, where obviously you're moving faster than if you were just walking. That's what I'm being shown. He's been on like this moving escalator, and the escalator is run, the engine feels as though it's God driven. So I do think he's the right man for the times. I think they've picked the right person. Back to the numerology. So 14th of September 1955. So 14, I've mentioned, is linked into the turquoise ray. It's linked into the Aquarian Age. It's also linked into being a very good communicator. Now, he's going to communicate in a different way. And if you saw him yesterday on the balcony, part of the way he communicates is actually clairsentience-wise, through his body. He's one of those people, I don't know if he's got cancer in his chart, but it reminded me a bit, because I'm Cancerian, of like a Cancer vibe, or definitely he's got water somewhere, because Virgo's Earth, isn't it? He's got some water somewhere. Very emotional. I mean, okay, he's standing in front of thousands of people who are applauding him. It's a big moment, I get it. But over and above that, you could just see the emotion. He couldn't hide the emotion that was there. And I think you're going to see that through his time as Pope. There's also going to be moments where you see his rage. And I think that's going to be holy rage, holy anger that he will express, but not in a Jesus throwing the people out of the temple type moment, just that you can see his feelings. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. So one of the ways he communicates is via emotion, not just in terms of what he says with his voice, which can be quite calm, but through what he does, through how he looks, through what he conveys, through his eyes, through his tone, through his body language. It's really, really quite interesting. So a good communicator in that sense, but also taking the Vatican more into the modern age with regards to technology as well. I don't know where the Vatican is with regards to technology and internet and all of that. Obviously, they're on all of the social media apps announcing that, you know, the new Pope is here. But there's something else that's coming in, which is very Aquarian. But definitely, you know, he is the Pope for the start of the Aquarian Age. If you add up the date of his birth, the month of his birth, and the year of his birth, you get to the number 34, which also adds up to 7. Now, I'm just going to refer to colour mirrors here, and colour mirrors is a colour healing system that I used to teach for 10 years. I've now got my own teaching system colour teaching system, but the bottles are good within colour mirrors. And there is a bottle which is 34. I'm just trying to find it here on my phone. Hold on. Right. So 34 is the whale, pale turquoise over blue. Again, it's that turquoise energy. So I'm just going to read the message. It says, when you choose this bottle, it signifies that the difficulties are coming to an end. It's a fresh start and the birth of something new and precious. There may even be something of a surprise in store. You see, I've picked that up. This guy is a bit of a surprise. There's going to be surprises down the line with him. It's not all what it looks on the surface, which is why I really am pleading with people to not just judge it on day one. You know, oh, we did that 20 years ago, so he's out. He's going to be around for a while. Let's give him a chance. So these colours, this blue energy that he's linked to, are about a shift in consciousness where you are asked to finally have complete faith that you are on purpose, in line with the greater will, and perfectly on track. It's time to take stock of the past and only take with you that which will serve you in the future. There is no time for blaming or resenting. If you open instead to gratitude, this will activate your higher heart center and connect you to the information and wisdom of everything that exists. Yeah, you see, that's interesting. The higher heart. Yes. So the church is about the heart. It's about love. But the higher heart is here. It's the bridge between the heart and the throat. Are we able to speak love? Are we able to demonstrate love? This is huge. So this is the opening of the higher heart chakra for the world as well. He somehow helps facilitate that. Not just us getting into our hearts, but us actually being able to express it, communicate it, which also means listening. Listening is a huge part of communication. Okay, number 7, 3 and 4 makes 7, is Neptune. So again, that's another blue energy. And again, it's water. Yes, that's the water I was picking up. This guy is deeper than he looks on the surface. There's more that's hidden, but I don't mean that in a negative way. He's got great depth and wells of information and wisdom. I'm particularly being drawn to his time in Peru as a missionary. He learnt what it is to be human and to struggle, and it stayed with him. He hasn't forgotten his roots. He hasn't forgotten what he saw. He isn't going to forget the people. I'm wanting to say he's the people's pope. I mean, maybe that's already been claimed by somebody else, but that's what I'm feeling. Hold on, I'm going to write that down. The people's pope. He's also the Aquarian Pope. But I feel he's going to be a good Pope. Okay. Anything else to say with regards to that? He's the 267th Pontiff. If you add up 2, 6 and 7, we get to 15. If you add 1 and 5 together, you get 6. 6 is linked into Venus, which is the energy of love, relationships, harmony, balance. One of you were also saying that 14, which is his birth date, and also the time that they elected the Pope. 14 in the tarot is the Temperance card. I think that's right. I haven't double checked. But if that is correct, Temperance, of course, is balance and patience. And we have to have a bit of patience. If he's going to be helping us to learn balance and patience, which also involves our patience with regards to our connection to higher dimensional realities, which doesn't mean it's being blocked. It just means, like anything, there can't be an egotistical expectation, which is just that I am entitled to have everything at my fingertips, because the very high vibrational stuff, you need to know how to integrate that and master that and embody that. Otherwise, it is just pearls before swine, to be perfectly honest. I picked a couple of cards for him last night from a deck which is called, what is it called? Becoming Dragon. And this is a deck which just has archetypal energies. And I thought it'd be interesting to look at the archetypal energies around him. And they're really fascinating. One is obvious. Okay, I'll show you the obvious one first. And then I'll talk about the one that's more interesting in a way. Because the thing is, this is forgiveness, which of course is interesting, but it's not a surprise. So he's operating on the energy of forgiveness and bitterness. One end of the spectrum, bitterness, is that I will not forgive. I will not forgive. I will not give a second chance. I will not go there. I will not step into my heart. I will stay in bitterness and anger and hate. And of course, the only person that actually hurts is yourself. The other part of the axis is forgiveness that sets you free. Okay, it sets you free. So the world needing to learn the energy of forgiveness. And from the Christ Consciousness deck, interestingly, I got the wrong card out. Oh, no, I didn't. There we go. Forgiveness. This is the forgiveness card from the Christ Consciousness deck. And this shows two opposing enemies in life, which could be anything. It could be geographical, it could be ideological, it could be political, embracing over a barbed wire fence and finding the common ground. And look at that, the birds overhead just signalling that it's time. Forgiveness sets you free. So the first energy around him is the energy of forgiveness. I also feel as though, there's a personal level to that with regards to whatever we're meant to be forgiving in our own life or have an opportunity to forgive. But I do think somewhere down the line, and I know this is a big one for some people to hear, because I'm not trying to jump to forgiveness before hearing and acknowledging and integrating and trying to soothe the hurt that's out there. But with regards to the church and the abuse that's happened over many centuries, ultimately we're going to have to come to a place of forgiveness, because that is the teaching of Jesus. And I think somehow he helps us to get to that place of forgiving the ones who did the deeds, as well as being there for the ones who are the victims. And I know that's a very hard pill for some people to swallow, but ultimately, come back to the teachings that I've been putting through recently, the biggest block to our awakening of this planet, of us ascending to a higher frequency, is forgiveness. So yeah, we can work on our own forgiveness, excuse me, but ultimately, at some point, we're going to have to forgive the big things in our world. But that's a journey, and it doesn't happen overnight. And at first, we have to hear, obviously, and hear the people who bear witness to whatever has occurred. Their voices have to be heard, has to be acknowledged. But somewhere down the line, we get into the energy of forgiveness. And you see my voice is getting all dry. It's like, because it chokes us to go there. But I'm also feeling it's got a stranglehold on us because the duality teachings, darkness wants to keep a grip and wants us to stay in the energy of hate. And we have to try somehow to get to the place that this card demonstrates, where we're able to find the common ground with each other and forgive. I'm recording this, today, and obviously yesterday we had the Victory in Europe celebrations. In fact, I don't know if you're watching it last night on the TV on BBC in the UK. Excuse me. Horse Guards Parade in London, which is beside the Mall leading up to Buckingham Palace. They had a big concert. They had Charles and Camilla, William and Kate there. They had a lot of veterans. And they were putting on this concert. The light show was so beautiful. Did you see the sky? The sky was just lit up in this beautiful pink light. It was so gorgeous. Such a beautiful moment. And everybody getting behind, our veterans and what happened. But today, the 9th of May, in Russia, they've of course got their military parades. And I believe that the Chinese leader is there with Putin. And what we must never forget is the sacrifice of Russian soldiers during World War II as well. Huge number of people that died for the freedoms that we have today. So you know, ultimately we're going to have to try to get to this place where we see, where's the card from the Metatron deck? You know, it's the yin yang, isn't it? That in darkness there is light, and in light there is darkness, and that there are very few situations, and there are very few people in our world, and there are very few events that are all entirely good or all entirely bad. But anyway, maybe that's a subject for another day. I'll come back to that. I'm really just trying to illustrate that, you know, the warring factions. Today we've got the fighting in some parts of the world, seeing Russia as the enemy, other people as the heroes, whereas ultimately we have to get to this place where we put down the gun, we put down the knife, we put down the sword, and we come together. So this guy, getting back to Pope Leo, yeah, what a job he's got in front of him. Anything else I want to say in this video? Let me just have a look. I think I'm pretty much there. Yeah, let's just pull a couple of cards, and then I'm going to end this. I'm going to go to a tarot deck, to have a look. What shall I ask? Let's just have a look at Pope Leo going forward. Okay, Pope Leo going forward. The first card that we've got coming out is the Queen of Pentacles, and it's the card of comfort. So I can't get away from this feminine influence around him. And if you watch my previous YouTube video, you'll know that I already, you know, I've been talking about the role of women and just feminine energy all around. Oh, this rabbit, the white rabbit, that also leads me to think that the last Pope dying and this new one coming in happened around Beltane, which of course is a festival linked into spring, which is birth and new beginnings. So let's just see. So Pope Leo, anything that Spirit wants to say. We've got the Nine of Swords, which is stress, and the Three of Cups, which is celebration. That to me is saying that the celebration is him becoming Pope. The Nine of Swords is the fact that he's got a little bit of stress around him and worry. I think it's interesting, these leaders of New Earth aren't necessarily the leaders of old, and by that I'm saying that there isn't much ego with this guy. There's not much ego. He's humble. He's very he's humble. He's not full of ego. And there's something here about the mantle of leadership of 1.4 billion people being daunting. I mean, I don't blame him personally, do you? I would be daunted. But in a way, I'm going to say that's a good thing that he's feeling a little bit stressed by it, because it shows the fact that he wants to do a good job. He wants to fulfill his duties to the best that he can. So I don't see that that's difficult. I don't see that that's a problem. But yeah, there's a bit of worry with him in terms of, yeah, because he's so egoless. It's almost like, can I do it? Am I up to the job? And he will. But Three of Cups is celebration that he's got it. Let's see, what else? Pope Leo. 3 more cards, please, Spirit. Anything else to say? We've got the Page of Cups, which is friendship. Excuse me. We've got Judgment, Angel of the Past. I think that's linked into the abuse within the church. He's the one. He's the one that previous popes have talked about it. He has talked about it as cardinal before, but the time for words is over. The time for action is here. So, because Page of Cups links into children as well, you see. So there's something here about, you see, this is a beautiful card, the Page of Cups. Reminds me of the card from my own deck, linked into children. And I said this recently on one video about reminding us that we need to be childlike. It's that passage from the Bible. We have to be childlike to enter the kingdom of heaven. But it's also about the kingdom of heaven is the heart. The heart is the portal. I think he's going to do quite a bit with children, actually. I feel, I don't know whether there's some new initiative that he's going to set up, or some type of new faction or group or division within the church, or a strengthening of it, linked into the like a young people's church type thing. I mean, I'm sure there already is something like that, but I see some strengthened arm of the church linked into children, and something for them, basically. It almost feels like it becomes his legacy, and it's also a way of redressing the balance with regards to abuse of children in the past. There's something in his name that's formed, which is like a healing pool for children, a portal, a healing portal for children. And both of these cards are water, aren't they? Not quite sure. Ceremonies with water, you know, like baptism, of course, is water, holy water. There's something he creates, or something that he endorses, or something he does, which is linked to where children are coming for healing, and like a rebirth type energy. Yeah. Anyway, one more card for Pope Leo, please. I'm smiling. I'm smiling because it's backing up what I said in my previous video. We've got the Tower, but it comes with the Empress and the Moon. It's exactly what I said in my past video. The Moon is what you can't see. Somehow he brings a Tower moment into the church, linked into the role of women. And I don't know when this happens. You see, because I think he's welcoming them in more. I think he's welcoming them in more. I think that the Empress comes in to her own within his time as Pope. Yeah, Eight of Cups, departure, Ace of Swords, victory, High Priestess, something we can't see, Wheel of Fortune, destiny. Watch this space. We'll come back to that prediction, because it might be a couple of years off, okay? It might be like you come back to me in 10 years' time and say, Amanda, remember you said something about the Pope and women and female priests and all of that, and how bonkers that sounded? I don't know. There's something here, though, where women's voices, women's position within the church, maybe this is Mary Magdalene. It could be. Maybe it's, I think I said that in my previous video as well, maybe it's the, you know, ancient books and documents that the Vatican has about the power of the feminine, you know, Mary's role. It could be that, but it's all coming underneath his reign. It's all within this time period, but he's the guy that's meant to be here to steer the ship, which is the Catholic Church, through these times. I tell you what, I'm glad he is calm and cool and collected, because if he was like a raging, egotistical maniac, well, we would be in trouble. But I don't think he is. I'm sure he's not. Let's just go to the Christ consciousness spray. Christ light, Master Jesus. Let's just end with a message here. Pope Leo. The Anointed One. The Anointed One at the anointed time for the anointed purpose. Of bringing my church to its senses. Of sorting out wrong from right. removing the stones covering past sins, restoring the reputation of the church, and bringing people together, bringing more in love, true companionship, and in a spirit of unity. I, for one, wish him well. That is today's message. Thank you. If you've enjoyed this video, please like it. And more than anything, what I'd like you to take away from this is the guidance from Spirit is to pause, give this guy a chance, let him find his feet, understanding that he's got a very difficult path ahead, but he is the right person for the right time. So I wish him well. Thank you very much, everybody. Lots of love. Take care. See you all soon. Bye-bye for now. Bye.